The kris, the traditional weapon from the Malay archipelago, has been infamously described by foreign colonizers as the deadliest weapon in this region. How true is this myth? Is it true that the kris blade is so deadly that it cannot be touched without due caution? In today's video, I will discuss how the kris blade can be made deadly and the secret behind its lethal status. Keep watching to learn more. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to another video. May you be in good health and positive spirit always. Once again, you are with me, Keris Johari, better known as Pak Jofe, the kris collector from Singapore, and you are watching another educational video that will help you grow your collecting skills and develop a healthy collecting habit right here on the Kris Collector YouTube channel. Today, I will share my thoughts on the functions and role of the kris as a weapon. How true is the myth that the kris blade is deadly to the touch due to poison? What is the medium that makes the kris blade poisonous? Is it the warangan? Or is it the material and process used to preserve and protect the kris blade from rust and corrosion? Now, before I dive deeper into today's video, let's clarify some definitions. There is a difference between the definition of poison and venom. The vital difference is its delivery method. Poisons functions by way of ingestion, inhalation, absorption, and touch. An example from nature are the likes of the South American dart frog, whose skin is full of dangerous toxins that it can kill through a mere ignorant touch. The Japanese fugu, the pufferfish, its liver is full of toxin that if you were to consume it, it will kill you. Now, these are examples of organic poisons and their delivery method to be effectively lethal. Whereas venoms, on the other hand, to be rendered effective, it must be delivered by way of injection. An example from nature, the likes of cobras, scorpions, hornets, catfish, stingrays, to name a few. To be deadly, their venom needs to be injected into you by breaking your skin, be it through fangs or stingers. Now, going back to the topic of the kris. So, is the kris poisonous or venomous? It definitely is not organically toxic, as the kris blade itself does not possess any biological means to produce its own poisons. Obviously clear is the poison is applied and needed to be delivered either by way of direct contact with the skin or piercing of the skin by way of cuts or stabs. Now, let me be clear about this fact. The kris, above all, is designed to serve as a stabbing or slashing weapon type. However, not all kris is designated as a functional weapon. As I have mentioned in my previous videos, the kris is a functional accessory made specifically to serve specific functions. In times of peace, the focus on the kris as a weapon becomes less of a priority and instead gets compartmentalized into one of the following categories. Number 1, to represent oneself, family and lineage, a heirloom piece. Number 2, to be worn in formal functions such as when appearing before the king in his royal court, a dress piece so to speak. Number 3, to serve as a regalia or secret relic in a personal shrine or altar. Usually this may be an ancestral piece. Number 4, to serve as a personal talisman, a good luck charm, a physical manifestation of intent and prayer. And the last but not least, to serve as an implement in a war and battle, a general purpose utilitarian piece. The last tier of kris in this category usually are less decorated and not lavishly adorned with precious metals, exotic materials and intricate carvings. Usually they are minimalist in form and design. Logic dictates that it makes no sense to lavishly decorate a kris meant to be brought onto the battlefield to defend one's honor, unless you are the king leading your men into battle. In many colonial accounts, be it from the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, the French, and the Americans, many refer to the kris as being poisoned. In my opinion, this may be a biased observation, or perhaps singing to the same tune so as not to contradict what has been written about on this subject in the past. Let's discuss the act of poisoning throughout culture. The act itself is a deliberate, albeit cowardly act to eliminate an opponent whose defensive skills may be greater than the one deploying the poison. Usually deployed by way of deception to be introduced through food or drink. Poisons can vary from mere dull intoxication of the senses to agonizing death within a matter of minutes, depending on the type and effect used. There are hundreds of organic toxins in the natural world, and its effect varies before the delivery of death. I am not going into details of accounts written by colonial occupiers and observers. All these information are on public domain. You can do your due diligence to look up these resources on your own. However, I will be sharing unwritten facts that has been shared and handed down orally natively. Fair warning, I will not be disclosing in full detail the instructions, especially related to the manufacture of the poisons itself, but I will share the process as to how the poison is applied. As a people, the Malays are not timid by nature. They will not hesitate to defend their honor and that of their household without a second thought. However, if it is something truly personal, when the intent is clear that by their kris death has been vowed upon, the art of applying poison onto the blade is then employed. What better surety to knowing that your foe truly will die from your kris when you are aware of the poison that you prepared by your own hand? Maybe this is also a good opportunity to describe the art of kris fighting by the Malays. The way the kris is designed, combined with the native art of martial arts, works in tandem with each other. The kris blade serves to target the vital points of the human anatomy. From arteries to vital zones that ensures blood loss and death, the kris blade itself is deadly in the hands of a well-trained martial arts practitioner. Now, as an insurance and surety, when poison is employed, it can be a deceptive practice to immobilize one's opponent before delivering the final death blow. A nasty business, but when it is of a personal nature, it somewhat becomes rational. To generalize that all kris are ritualistically poisoned is a fallacious and definitely a false assumption. The natives of Nusantara are well versed at observing nature. Any poison, if administered from an unnatural source, meaning the source has no biological means to produce its own toxin, is limited by time and usage. In the case of a kris blade whereby poison has been applied, it does not make rational sense to assume that the poison remains effective after a period of time, or after put to use on a few targets within the same day. Having said that, however, I would still err on the side of caution. A kris blade that has not been cleansed of surface rust should be assumed to may have at one time been applied with poison and thus still be treated carefully. A poison, over time, may be rendered inert, but as with all organic toxins, over time it may harbor bacteria and pathogens, so best to handle it safely before neutralization through the traditional cleansing cycle. Now, before I touch on the poison itself, allow me to share on the aspect of antidotes. From oral and written accounts, it can be summarized that a Malay, whenever poison is employed, always carry along with them the antidote, and what better way to carry the cure but within the object that delivers the poison itself. Yes, the kris blade may carry the poison, but within the other parts of the kris blade resides the antidote. As with the nature of the Malays, belief in balance and pairings is reflected in many areas of our culture. When there is a poison, there is a cure. When there is a problem, there is definitely a solution. So here the solution is in two folds. Firstly, part of the cure is from the material of the hilt itself, usually in the form of wood or other exotic animal parts whose material is known to neutralize natural toxins. Secondly, the catalyst or its binary half in the form of powder or cake is concealed or lathered onto the batang kris itself and concealed by the hilt. As per tradition of old, in the event of accidental poisoning through a cut, the wound is to be rubbed upon by the tangkai of the kris, and shavings from the hilt material is to be boiled in water and consumed. This will neutralize the accidental poisoning. It minimizes the effect of the poison, meaning you will still suffer to some extent the effects of the toxin, but you will be spared from death. Now, before I go on to share how a blade is poisoned, allow me to share how to identify a kris blade that may have been poisoned at some point in time. If you are experienced and observant, you may have come across an old blade whereby some parts appear to have degraded much worse than any of the other remaining parts. The surface corrosion differs from that of natural corrosion by age. This would suggest that the kris blade may have had poison applied to it at some point in time. This process is called cacap kris or mencacap kris. It is one more step after the merangi process. Herein lies the art of rendering a kris blade poisonous and venomous. It is definitely not the warangan that makes the blade poisonous per se. It is the process after which that renders the blade more deadly. Rationally, if warangan renders the blade poisonous, how is it that the kris can be handled directly with one's bare hands throughout the entirety of the warangan process? It would not make sense to conclude that this process renders the blade effectively deadly. Quite the contrary, really. The art of poisoning by the Malays, this craft renders the most sensible of Malays to avoid even touching the poison mix. The manufacture and application are in two parts. The first is, of course, to produce the toxin itself. This can be derived from a multitude of sources. It can be plant-based, insect-based, reptilian-based, marine-based. The exact details I will not be sharing as it may be too instructive and I worry that it may be abused. It would be most irresponsible on my part to share too openly the darker and more dangerous aspect of Malay culture. Some knowledge are not meant for public circulation, unfortunately. Now, the second part is application and delivery. For academic purpose, I can share the process as to how this poison is applied. In Javanese literature, there is mention of this process called cacap kris or mencacap kris. Basically, it is a process of anointing a poison onto the kris blade. So now that you have your base toxin ready, how do you apply it onto your blade and ensure that its efficacy lasts long enough for you to execute your deed? You will need a reliable carrier base that does not neutralize your toxin. Traditionally, the methods may differ from one ethnic culture to another, but generally, most will adopt this method. A matured banana tree is sought and the main stem is cut and set aside. Next, water from the banana tree stem is collected. The poison is then mixed and left to sit for a day. Next, the stem is shaked and immersed in this solution mix. The fibrous nature of the banana stem or trunk will absorb the toxin solution into the stem. And once this solution has been absorbed, the blade intended to be poisoned is then stabbed into the banana trunk or stem and left for a few moments before being removed and sheathed. Or another method is the stem of the banana tree is first shaped to fit inside a bamboo cylinder. And then the toxin is poured into this cylinder container. and the banana stem will act like a sponge to absorb the toxin, and the blade is then stabbed into it. Highly effective and lethal for the first 72 hours before weakening. All these methods dictates that the blade not be touched once the blade has been stabbed into the poison stem. Traditionally, such blades upon the deed being done is supposedly discarded by the one using it, or it will not be brought into their residence for fear of accidental poisoning or of themselves or their family members. As far-fetched as it may sound, the overall process is logical and rational. More so, just like the kris itself being a personalized weapon, the art of poisoning too is personal in nature. So what do you all think? Do you know of any more native methods as to how a toxin is applied to a kris blade to render it poisonous and venomous? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. That is all for today's video. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope this video adds value to you and may you learn something new and useful from watching this. I look forward to reading your feedback in the comment section, so please feel free to leave me your feedback and comments and I will personally reply to you. So, as always, have a care and remember to subscribe, like and share if you would. Until we meet in my next video, stay healthy, stay safe, stay curious and get excited for more to come. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.